To say that gender discrimination is common in Ghana or Africa is akin saying the sky is blue.
I've been, in spaces where um, maybe the most qualified person in the room is the woman. The one who's the most experted and knowledgeable is the woman, but they will defer to the men because there's just an ingrained assumption that men have more knowledge, they have the authority, and so that becomes a challenge for women who are even in powerful positions, right? And so you look at even looking at something like parliaments, right, where we have very capable, highly educated, smart, strong, independent, powerful women, but their qualifications are still questioned, right? Their ability to make decisions are still questioned, and there's still a way that we're expected to defer to men and their decision making.
We're supposed to advance and we be advanced, and we're in the 21st century. There's been times where, because I teach evening classes, my students are like, oh, well, you're a woman and you're teaching us until 8, 9 p.m. What about your husband? How does your husband think about it? They would never ask my male colleagues that kind of question.
Some of the subtle biases women have to unwillingly endure include dear sir emails and surprise when a doctor turns out to be a woman in person, questions about plans to start a family at job interviews.
They would never ask my male colleagues to intervene on matters that are not academic. And these are some of the subtleties that women have to go through. Our workloads are more, not because you give everybody 4 or 5 lessons a week, but the expectations for us to be caregivers, to be motherly, to extend all these so-called traditionally female roles into our workplaces makes us carry much, much more. And these are things that women often don't talk about.
Labels: bossy if assertive, too soft if polite, too difficult if brave, induced guilt trios if they are unable to give time to family, and gender norms that assign appropriateness to their actions.
Perceptions. I remember when I first came, I was much younger then, and it was difficult for some people even to take instructions from a woman because in their households or the way they've grown up, women are not meant to give instructions, they're meant to follow instructions. These kinds of perceptions of what a woman is. When you're assertive, as a woman, you're considered bossy. And if you're a woman that's determined, you're just stubborn. Yeah. If you're somebody that's passionate, you're considered overly emotional. Everything that that a woman is, her whole being is labeled negatively.
It doesn't need reiteration that people are treated differently in most African societies simply because they are male or female.
I'll say that women navigating the job market looks very different than men, right? So we hear these stories all the time of, women being propositioned for sex in order to get a job. I'm sure that doesn't often happen to men. You're more likely to hear these stories from especially young women who will go for a job interview and find themselves being propositioned in order to get to that job, right? And so that becomes a major barrier for them to access employment. I think that there are still within Ghanaian society. I think that there's still a perception that certain jobs are for women and certain jobs are for men, right? And so then it means that you're limited as a woman, right? Because the job market doesn't see you as a potential candidate for a job that is traditionally held by men, and so then it stunts your growth and it stunts your capacity to dream about a bigger career because you're being told to stay in a box
And not on the basis of their capabilities. While bias against women is talked about more, and girls and women suffer most from society-prescribed gender norms, boys and men also deal with masculinity norms.
In our constitution, for instance, like it doesn't really state that it has to be a woman, but in other jurisdictions, so like in a place like Kenya and all of that, some institutions state clearly that it has to be like a woman that's running for the position. But perception wise, I think it was relatively smooth compared to women that are running for SRC president, who are running for treasurer and all that. I believe it's because it's termed as women's commissioner. But then it wasn't too easy, because I mean there are other things that are associated with women that are running for positions. So you have people thinking that you are not worth it. And that's a lot more like people are on SRC president.
Gender stereotypes trigger biases that perpetuate discriminatory mindsets and behaviors.
I can say that it's even more astonishing when you're in an environment with people who are educated, who you think are more exposed and should know better. Outrightly, you're discriminated against. Outrightly, if you raise certain points, again with passion, you're treated like you're some irrational and overly emotional being that should be dismissed. There's times where you really have to stand firm. Even there was a point where even with my qualifications, I came to my institution with my qualifications, but even still, I was graded on the level of somebody without a PhD. There have been times where, especially at the time, because I was a young woman, yeah, even parking my car was difficult because they could not believe that a person like me could be a lecturer at such an institution.
Recall the time you picked up a pink dress for a girl and a set of cars for a boy?
Like, oh, girls, you have to play with dolls, you have to do this, I'm not a fan of that, just because I never grew up like that. And I don't think, if a young girl likes dolls, fine. But if a young boy likes them, it's also fine. Yeah. If a girl is like me, she wants to play with guns, and I used to have these mini computers, that's what I loved. It's also fine. So we allow kids to be who they are, instill confidence, affirm them, let them know that they are worthy, they're equal to any other human being. It doesn't matter what gender they are, it doesn't matter what ethnic group they are, it doesn't matter their ability. All these kinds of discriminatory things we use to separate people. We should instill confidence rather, and I think we're slowly changing our ways of parenting to fall in line with that.
Or much worse, remember when as a woman, your paycheck was much less than your male colleagues doing the exact same work? These bias-triggered discriminations take many forms, from freedoms restricted by violence to truncated opportunities.
The stereotype view around women playing football, there are these very archaic perceptions about women playing football, and women come with bad luck. I've heard some stories, and it's very disheartening, even to the point of parks that women play in. You get the sort of stories about, no, we will not allow women to play on this park because the men play there, and once the women play before them, it brings them bad luck.
Sadly, we all exhibit gender bias in varying severity, knowingly or unknowingly. Too many glass ceilings remain unbroken.
We find ourselves in situations whereby we step into a place and people kind of regard the man over the woman. When a man steps in and is speaking, it's like, okay, somebody is speaking. If a woman is also trying to also air her opinion, it's more like, oh, okay, we're listening, but we will go with what the man is saying. So that's how I see empowerment. What I've noticed that stands out from the conversations I've had with other women is the fact that they really want someone to listen. They want to be heard. They air their opinions in male-dominated fields, and it's more like the response is, you know what, it's not going to happen. This is the norm. This is how we do it, and we are not ready to toe the line you're going to be towing, or management is not going to approve this because that's not how we do it. So no one is actually listening, and no one believes that the woman will be able to make, suggestions that will help better the situation.
There is no shortage of qualified women to fill leadership roles. Women make up almost half of Ghana's workforce. They outnumber men in earning bachelor's and master's degrees and are nearly on par in getting medical and legal degrees. Yet, from corporate boardrooms to parliament, from healthcare companies to the courts, from non-profit organizations to universities, men are far more likely than women to rise to the highest paying and most prestigious leadership roles. Despite record-breaking numbers of women elected to public office in 2018 and increasing public attention around gender equality globally, women remain underrepresented in senior leadership roles across industries in Ghana and Africa. There is an assumption that Ghanaian women lack agency and are not empowered to take up leadership positions. So the frequently asked question is, where are the women?
I think there are lots of amazing, intelligent, powerful women, strong women who exist in Ghanaian society all around. I know many of them, and I see them all the time. I think the problem is that women and girls are constantly underestimated, right? And so there's an assumption that women can't accomplish certain things or isn't going to be good enough to do certain things. And I think we need to reframe how we see women and girls. I also feel that we need to support women and girls, right? So if we understand that many of us have been socialized to not believe in ourselves, then it's a bit difficult to expect us when we get to become an adult to all of a sudden be able to go for certain accomplishments or achievements. I think it becomes difficult because we've been socialized for so many years. And so what we need is to support women, to give them mentorship, to provide them with opportunities the same way we would give boys and men opportunities who they may not be fully qualified for the role, but we will still give them that opportunity because we have faith in them. I think that we need to have faith in women. I think we need to give them the opportunities to actually take up positions.
What are the barriers to women's leadership? The qualities of a leader, as well as the path to achieve leadership roles, are still largely based on an outdated male model that shuts women out. Old stereotypes. Because men have been leaders for so long, the traits associated with leadership are often thought of as masculine and not viewed as favorably when exhibited by women.
Well, I'll say that the major barrier to women's leadership is patriarchy, right? And so patriarchy is a set of ideologies, beliefs, practices, systems, structures that privilege male domination, right? And so when we're in a system that says that men should be leaders, men should have all the opportunities and the resources, that becomes a major barrier across society. And so I think to put it in practical terms, again, you constantly have people telling you that you're not good enough or women are not aggressive enough to be in leadership positions, or they're not good with money, for example. So how can they lead an organization? All of these stereotypes become barriers to women actually achieving and striving in society.
Bias and discrimination. Sexual harassment, hostile work environments, and subtle biases are still obstacles.
Yes, women in football face a lot. I can speak for the footballers, for example, the female footballers in the Women's Premier League. We are different from men. And so you expect that, obviously, men will have their masculine features, women have, different features. We have the feminine features. So the respect that is given to the men should be accorded, to women as well. We look different in our jerseys to men because of how we were created. And so you do not want to see women disrespected on the field of play, after games. There have been times where, personally, I've seen some men post pictures of female players on social media, and I just want to use the right words, they are concentrating on the features of the woman. And for me, it's a bit below the belt. Let's post pictures of footballers who are doing well and give them the sort of respect that we would do for the male. And so these are some of the challenges. That's one thing that I've seen, especially from the male side, or supporting female players, where I see them, putting a lot of attention on the features of women. I think we should divert that attention to the core thing, which is this player is a good player, and and leave it at that. Things like that should also be looked at and talked about.
Ghanaian women face even further obstacles. to their advancement, and as a result, are even less likely to move into leadership roles. Lack of flexibility. Balancing work and family can be a challenge that limits women from seeking leadership roles. Workplaces are still designed a decades-old notion of male and female domestic roles. The benefits of gender-inclusive leadership. Just as the status quo is holding women back from leadership positions, it is holding men back from embracing caretaking and support roles. All genders benefit when individuals are free to make their own choices. Additionally, families are more secure when women move into higher-paying leadership roles, particularly families where the woman is the sole or primary breadwinner. With more women in top jobs, businesses benefit from the creativity of a wider range of talented leaders, enabling them to recruit and retain a more talented workforce.
So for you, a young African girl watching me, I'd like you to know that a lot of us are singing your praise and cheering you on, waiting for you to get to where we are. The road will not be easy. It will be quite turbulent. However, you need to persevere. You need to always motivate yourself, even if people around you are not motivating you. Look up and see the empowered women who are standing on the other side, waiting for you to come and create the change that we need in society. You can do it, okay? That is what I have got to say to you. You can do it because you have the ability inside of you. Nurture it and let it happen. We can't wait to see you make the changes that we look forward to.